My name is James Simmons. So I'm going to take you through the day of the planner and how PlannerOne can make your planning more efficient. So instead of just diving into pure functionality, we're going to try to show you how to accomplish some everyday scenarios. So let's talk about the process flow when we get in the morning. In this process flow, I'm going to start with my production news for the day and how to work around that. This is a fully integrated ISV, so it's actually inside of NAV. So in NAV, it's going to start with updating our product design and our resource capacities. So any changes to our BOMs or routings we can take into account, and any changes to our machine centers and work centers. Next, using PlannerOne, we have the ability to manually or automatically plan production orders, and I will go into great detail to show you how that works. Once they're in PlannerOne, we'll move to the analysis, which is seeing how all the operations are planned and how we can make them more efficient. Once we get our planning view the way we like it, then we can publish it back to NAV. So what that does is back in NAV, it updates all the operation plan dates. We're going to start to see how to do these processes. So we're going to see how to access PlannerOne and its views. Inside of PlannerOne, we're going to see how to display all of the Gantt charts clearly. We're going to see how to schedule in PlannerOne, how to analyze our results, and then how to publish back to NAV. So let's start with taking a look at some production orders. So let's talk about the embedded views of PlannerOne and how to get to them. The embedded views are going to be inside of production orders, machine centers, and work centers. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these production orders. And there's going to be a new tab towards the bottom here that's for PlannerOne setups and the PlannerOne production scheduler. This would be your view. So let's real quickly talk about what we're looking at here from a high level. This right here is a filtered view of just this production order, so 1024 for this bicycle, and basically the operations and the work and machine centers that they are planned on. There is some terminology that is slightly different in PlannerOne to NAV. Work orders are the same as production orders. Groups are going to be your work centers. Resources are your machine centers. And right here we have our capacities, and if they have multiple capacity. So this is the view from inside the production order card. So if we want to see the other two views, they're pretty similar, but they're actually going to be filtered down to the operation by machine center. So let's take a look at one of our machine centers. So we'll take a look at Work Center 100. And again, on the Work Center card, we'll have another embedded view of PlannerOne, this time filtered down to the operations by that machine center. And again, it's a very similar view from the Work Center. It's just refined to one machine center. So that takes care of the embedded views and how to access them. But we also have a PlannerOne production page. So let's take a look at that. Now there's several ways to get there. You can use your search bar and just type in PlannerOne, or it's actually in our file structure over here. So if we went to manufacturing and PlannerOne, then we can actually open up the PlannerOne production page. Usually when we first open this up, these Gantt charts are going to be closed, so we actually have to click on them to open them. But for this demo, I've went ahead and loaded all of these charts. So let's talk about first and foremost this resource Gantt chart. This is primarily where we're going to start our work every day and talk about what we're looking at. Again, just like the embedded view inside of the production order, we can see our work centers, our machine centers, and then we can see the operations. So we can see that one line equals the planning of one resource. We can also see in the operations that are planned, they're represented by these rectangles. Basically, the width of the rectangle would be indication of how much time this operation is going to take. And if we notice that there's two different heights here, the smaller of the height right here represents the setup times, and then the tallest part represents the time for the actual operation to run. So in the top here, we actually have our date range. So we can see right here, I zoomed in just the first 2 days of my planning period. And if you are looking at the dates, this is a demo database. So I've set it up in the future so I can continue to use it. So we're actually looking at 2018. So we can see if these resources are, again, resources would be your machine work centers, if they're finite or infinite for the capacities. And if you notice right here, I've actually set this up with a capacity of 2, because this is probably one of my most potential for bottlenecks, so I've increased capacity. So as of here, you can see it's basically able to run 2 simultaneous operations at the same time. Next, we can talk about how to center your operations and basically get the feel and the look that you want. So we can do this with some options in the ribbon. So we're going to start with our display tab. So in this display tab, we can actually look at by week. We can look at day, month. We can even do an advanced scale. So for instance, we wanted to look at a 2-week period. We can do that as well. To make these a little easier to read, as we're building up production orders, these are going to get smaller and smaller as we're adding more and more. So we can actually enlarge the operation. It makes it a little bit easy to read. I've already hidden my non-working periods. So you can see that basically we're looking at Thursday and Friday. If I zoom out a little bit by pressing my control key and using the rocker on my mouse, I've actually hidden Saturday and Sunday and just looking at Monday. So we can do that with our hiding our non-working periods. And another great feature is if I hover over the operation, I can get my work order number, I can get the routing and the step. This right here would be work order 22, and then so some other information I can get about this is the start, when I'm supposed to exactly start this. So this is supposed to start and finish by 4 p.m. and the number of operation of the workstations. So this is fully customizable. I can reduce the amount of information in this text box. I can add to it, so it's fully customizable. All right, so let's talk about how to schedule in PlannerOne. So back in NAV, we can go to our planning worksheet. So we probably run this every day. And we can take a look at the production orders needed. And when we go to carry out the action messages and create firm plan production orders, they're going to flow into PlannerOne, and they're going to flow into the resource Gantt chart, but they're going to be on a standby machine. Now you're not going to find this machine set up in NAV. This is unique to PlannerOne. This is like a queue for orders that are going to come in, and then we have the option to plan them automatically. So I went ahead and created one of those for us. So when I went to set this up, I can specify the start of my planning period. So when I want to plan this, it just sticks them at the end of the planning period. So this is one of the ones that came from the worksheet that I just showed you. So we got our 2 options here. If we wanted to manually plan this, we can actually highlight these. And then if we go to our actions, you can click on the toggle to move it, and this will give you the ability to point and drag. So once it's highlighted, you can actually move it. So you would actually move that to whichever operation it needs to go to and which date you'd like it to start. Second option would be to plan automatically. So if we go back to our optimization, we do have the scheduling right here. So if we schedule it right here, and then we've selected our start date, it'll look at that and plan it within that date range. And then it'll make sure it is moved to the right resource, respecting links between the operations. So pretty simple there. So when I run that scheduling feature, it'll actually plan it down here on the right resource, which is your work center or machine center. So how do we analyze the results? Once it's planned, we can come down here, see if it's sitting on the correct machine or work center, and we can see basically if it's going to create any bottlenecks. Maybe we're over capacity on certain machine centers. So we can keep a visual on this. There's actually a indicators and details section right here. So if we look at this and we highlight one of our orders here, so we can see that I have 7 planned work orders. So maybe I want to look at this every time I use the schedule feature. I don't have any late work orders, so when I want to plan, that looks fine. So the more and more that I either manually or automatically plan, you can tell if it's going to make anything delayed or just by my indicators. So that's how we can analyze what the system's doing. And then we can make corrections accordingly. So maybe to release some of this right here, I'd want to move this to another resource. So I can actually just highlight these, go back up here to my actions, and try to move this to another machine center. So if I do try to move it, let's just say maybe I wanted to move it a little bit later. Maybe I want to start it Friday morning. Just get it close, and basically it will make any necessary changes to the previous operations to make sure that it can fit in the slot. So when you point and click, everything updates accordingly. Next, let's talk about, again, how we want to view this. Right now I have operations set up by the color of the work order. So every work order will have a different color. There's quite a few colors, but not infinite. I believe it's 23 colors, but usually that's enough to basically differentiate between the different work orders. So with analysis, point and dragging, moving around operations, keeping an eye on the key performance indicators, when we get the plan ideal the best we can, then all of these changes right here, we can actually push back to NAV to recalculate. So under our planning tab, we do have a publish button. Now, once I do publish this, basically it'll go back and update the times for those production orders, and that way it makes it visible to everybody in the company. I also have the ability, once I do publish, there will be another icon to revert. So maybe I got a call at the last minute after I published for the material shortage, so I want to revert it back to like it was, make some changes, and then push it back.